You answered. You just stopped sharing. I miss the stories, not replies. There's a kind of distance that doesn't arrive all at once. Nothing dramatic happens. No goodbye. No fight big enough to point at and say, that's where it changed. The messages still come. You ask how their day was. They answer. You send something funny. They react. You tell them goodnight. They say it back. From the outside, everything looks fine. That's probably why it hurts so much. Because the conversation is still there. Only the person inside it feels gone. I think the first thing that disappears in a relationship isn't affection. It's details. The small things. The pointless things. The things nobody asks for. The things people only share when they feel naturally connected. One day, you realize you no longer know what happened during their lunch break. You don't hear about the annoying customer. The coworker who said something ridiculous. The song they accidentally had on repeat for 2 hours. The coffee that tasted terrible. The dog they saw crossing the street. Nothing important. Just life. And somehow those things were everything. I remember staring at our chat one night. There were messages everywhere. Replies. Questions. Answers. But something felt strangely empty. Then I noticed it. You hadn't told me a story in weeks. Not a real one. Not the kind that starts with, you won't believe what happened today. Or, this is so random but. Or, I need to tell you something funny. Those messages used to arrive without effort. Like breathing. Now every conversation felt like it needed a reason to exist. And that's when I understood. When someone stops sharing their ordinary days with you, it doesn't always mean they hate you. Sometimes it just means you're no longer the first place their thoughts go. That realization sits quietly inside your chest. It doesn't scream. It just stays there. Heavy. I think that's why some people become obsessed with old chats. Not because they want to reread the flirting. Not because they miss the compliments. They miss the randomness. The photo of a cloudy sky. The complaint about being stuck in traffic. The voice note recorded while walking home. The picture of dinner before the first bite. Back then, every tiny thing seemed worth sharing. Now entire days pass without a single story. And somehow that says more than silence ever could. The hardest part is that nobody can really explain this kind of loneliness. Because technically, you're still talking. You still see their name on your screen. You still get notifications. You still receive replies. So why does it feel like grieving? Maybe because being included in someone's daily life is different from being answered. One is connection. The other is courtesy. And sometimes those two things look exactly the same from a distance. I remember checking my phone one evening. There was a message from you. Just 3 words. Simple. Normal. Nothing wrong with it. But I looked at it for a long time. Because a year earlier, that same message would have arrived together with 5 other things. A complaint. A joke. A photo. A random observation. A story that didn't matter. The words were still there. The closeness wasn't. That's the strange thing about growing apart. Nobody announces it. There's no official conversation. No warning. You only notice it in moments that seem ridiculous. Like realizing you no longer know what they ate today. Or discovering they changed something in their life and forgot to mention it. Or hearing a story from them that happened weeks ago and thinking, oh, I didn't know that. And then pretending it doesn't hurt. Because how do you explain missing information that was never owed to you? How do you tell someone? I'm sad because you stopped telling me the boring parts of your day. It sounds childish. Until it happens to you. Then you understand. The boring parts were never boring. They were proof. Proof that someone wanted you standing beside them, even during moments that meant absolutely nothing. That's why the absence feels so loud. Not because you need updates. Not because you need constant attention. But because being trusted with someone's ordinary life is a form of intimacy people rarely talk about. Eventually you stop asking. Not out of anger. Not out of pride. Just exhaustion. You stop saying, what happened today? Because you already know the answer will be short. And after enough short answers, your questions become shorter too. That's how conversations shrink. Not through conflict. Through adaptation. 2 people slowly adjusting to less. Until less becomes normal. And one night you find yourself holding your phone, looking at a chat that still exists, wondering why it feels so empty. The messages are there. The replies are there. The person is there. Yet somehow, the feeling of being part of their day disappeared a long time ago. And maybe that's what hurts most. Not being ignored. Not being left. Just realizing that somewhere along the way, you stopped being the person they wanted to tell things to. Even the small things. Especially the small things.